So, greetings. I am Tony, and I am the founder of CAYA, which stands for Come As You Are, the sound system, the enterprise, and audio, with our first release later on this year. And basically, I started the Music Is series as just owing to obviously the current times that we're in. And also because I have a lot of friends who are in some way, shape or form, a lot of what they do day to day is about music, you know? And so I thought it would be a great opportunity just to really capture how people are currently experiencing this time and what they're doing in order to be able to cope. But I think even before then, what music is to them, like for some people, you know, like we've had a wealth of people that in the 8 weeks or 7 weeks prior, you know, I've spoken to a range of people from, you know, academics who study music to yourself, who obviously, you know, you are here as a result of music, and you've got, you know, young warrior who, you know, and so it's just been phenomenal to really capture what this thing that, you know, to some people doesn't mean anything, but then you've got those who everything about their being comes down to music. And so that's why I started the series. And obviously,
good idea.
You here just because of who you are, Chris Peckings. And so if you can just tell us who you are, what you do, and yeah.
Basically, I'm Chris, son of George Price, aka Daddy Peckings, one of four. I'm the youngest, and my dad was the pioneer, is the pioneer of Jamaican music in the UK, aka probably Europe also. He came to London in 1960, and when he came, he brought music. He was involved with Cox and Dodd in Jamaica as a promoter, and he was part of the sound system with other people like Count Machuki. Lee Perry was around it, Prince Buster was around it. So he kind of grew up or was friends with all the greats, even people like Tommy McCook, Don Drummond, Roland Alfonso, all that era. So he came to London with a bundle of knowledge and music. And in London, he had people like Duke Vin, who's the first sound man in England, Count Suckle, who's my godfather, who was the first black nightclub owner.
That's incredible. You know, like when you say he's just like my godfather, like that is, that in itself is just like, that is elite. You know, that's like the elite of reggae.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think the people of that generation, no matter where they came from in the Caribbean, they jailed because when the boats went around to come to England, they stopped at different islands. So there was no problem with what if you were Jamaican, Dominican, St. Lucian, Barbadian, Grenadian. We were just one. And that's what built our community. Sadly, it's not the same anymore.
No.
But we'll get back to it because everything, like, we've all lost someone in this pandemic.
We have.
We couldn't even celebrate it. Yeah, we couldn't celebrate their death in the way we normally do. So I think it's a reset button, and as you said earlier, and I'm glad a young lady like yourself is doing this because I think it's good, it's important that young people take part in things that I've done, what I've done, but the generation after me have to do, and then when you have kids, their kids, and vice versa. So it's an important journey for us because we create so much as a community, but we always lose it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, in terms of who you guys are, as I said, I don't think there would be reggae music in the UK had it not been for your dad. But I think equally, or even more so, your mum was a real pillar in the whole process. And obviously, as a woman myself, it's something that I can definitely, and I want to, you know, uplift even more. Not saying that your dad didn't, you know, run the shop.
Oh no, you're 100% right. My mum was the catalyst to even open the shop. My dad was happy for people to come around the house and buy music and that, but it got so busy because when he was dealing with Duke Vin and Suckle and the Eunice and Daddy Vigo and a couple of the guys in Birmingham, it wasn't so much. But after a while, word spread that Pecking of some records, and he was getting records quite often. So the door would knock 10, 11 at night. You know, our people, no, they don't care about time. So, so my mum had enough, and she encouraged him to go and open a shop, which he did, the one on Askew Road in 1974. He gave up his job because he was working in the West End at a company called Florist, which is, I think the Queen owns it. It's like a perfumery business. And he left that. And yeah, he made a go of doing music, which he loved. Coxon would then send Studio One to him. He'd go to the wharf and pick it up, quite a few. And it was like the business. Then you had my older brothers, because we've all come into business at different stages. I'm the youngest. Tony was the oldest. He's the one who grew up in Jamaica. They all grew up in Jamaica, bar me anyway. But him and Ken Booth, Alton Ellis, Delroy, Slim Smith, they're all the same age group. They're all friends. And then it all filtered down to Trevor, who was the first in the shop working. Duke would go out and do deliveries on the road until I got involved in the business from about 1981, and kept the shop going after my dad passed in 94. So we're no longer at 80, at 142, we're at 81 Askew Road. So it's kind of been a journey. So yeah, a great journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's a bit of a kind of, I can answer it myself, but I'd like to hear it from you. How has music impacted your life? Because I know that you all have professions. So you're the last of 4 brothers. And as you said, each of you at different times have been, you know, and obviously Duke is equally just as much as involved. But without music, what would your life be like? What would you be doing?
I worked in IT for a long time, but it's something that my dad wanted us to learn a trade. I think all that Windrush generation, they like the fact that you learn a trade, and it's not just me, all my friends are dad. So basically I did computers. I worked in it for a long time, probably over 30 years. But secret, all the time I was doing it, I was in the shop. So yes. I did shift work. So on my days off, I'd be there. When I was on late, I'd be in the shop. Probably had it not been for music, which I can't imagine, it would still been IT, I suppose. But I think music is such an important thing. I took a salary drop to do my music and leave IT because I thought, I can't do this for people. I didn't really enjoy the job, it was just the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but with the shop, I might earn less, but I'm happy I'm meeting people like yourselves and people coming through, the new generation coming through. And it's an enjoyment to meet people. I remember buying the first record of Dad, and it was this, and the Dad danced to it and sold it to me. So everyone leaves Peckings with a story, do you understand? So I hope they'll be speaking about me. To my kids that, your dad sold me this one day or such and such.
Yeah. No, it's just, it's you know, they don't make them like Peckings anymore. You know, that's what I say. Obviously, I'm fortunate enough to kind of know you guys. Obviously, I didn't know your dad, but I just feel like his spirit lives on in the shop. And I think that's what makes Peckings Records Peckings. Just because there is that long-standing history, family history, you know, and as a result of that, you have people that just come there just to be in that space, you know. So it's really, really, it's a special place, definitely a special place. How has music impacted your life?
Tremendously. I mean, it's my mood. It's my happiness, it's my sadness, it's my vibe, it's my creative thing. Different, and I listen to all kinds of music, as my dad did, as my brothers do. Reggae is it's the food to my soul, though. So it's really impacted on why I'm doing it still today. When we started the label in 2004, it was like Duke came up with the idea, and we were surrounded by artists from even before we was making music. So it's like, it was like obviously the next progression, the next step up, because my dad didn't produce. But had he not come to England at that period of time, he would have, because all his friends became big producers: Prince Buster, Lee Perry, Coxon, Duke Reid. These are not people that he's heard of. These are people that, when he came to England, wanted him to run their label.
Yeah.
So here, so it was like a thing like they would distribute, give him, he would get first dibs of everything before. It's only because my daddy, he's loyal to him and Coxon. He ain't leaving Coxon. So that's why Duke Reid ended up with places like Trojan. And Buster ended up with people like Bluebee. Because if my dad was to know, he would have had first for all of those people, because that's the love and respect they have for him. Yeah, so for us, it was the next, it's real, the progression to have a label and in the UK to do the Jamaica thing here and create that same sound.
No, absolutely. And as I said, I don't think we would have reggae music had it not been for, you know, the pioneering of your dad, of your parents, you know, of both your parents, because I think equally they were able to really founder something which has lasted over, you know, almost 50 years. Which you know, many businesses now, whether it's digital or, you know, in a physical shop, can't do. So no, I think it's, yeah, I'm just blessed to be able to say that I've been there and I've experienced it, and I know why, you know, it has got that long history. What I would ask next is, what's your first recollection of music, Chris?
I would say that in my house, like a lot of people of that period, you had a gram stereo, and obviously there was a lot of records in the house, a lot of jazz, because my dad's a real jazz fanatic.
And see, that's what I think a lot of people don't appreciate, you know, like obviously he was a specialist and he was bringing Jamaican music over, but there was a lot more in terms of genres, in terms of, you know, jazz, that really also, you know, like all the gospel element, you know, the American gospel that really was fundamental on a Sunday. So yeah, reggae was what was happening on the sound system, but there's the other side that was just, you know, smooth, and probably why you're so very much into soul as well, you know, because there is that foundation of jazz too.
Yes. Well, that's what it kind of, when I want to be creative sometimes, I don't even listen reggae. I go in a different zone, I listen to something else. And you pick elements, like, that's why you have so many reggae artists. A lot of the big Studio One songs early are covers of American rhythm and blues, early American soul, jazz. So I think the people in the Caribbean are quite eclectic.
No, absolutely, I agree.
They'll have Jim Reeves, they'll have country and Western music all over the Caribbean, but there are people like Jim Reeves and stuff, but then they'll have jazz. And then they'll make their own music. So you'll have your calypso, you'll have your reggae, but it's all in a cauldron. The great thing about Jamaican music is very close to its roots of African via the drum. And the step, the dance, the moves, you can still see it today. That's why Afrobeat is so close to dancehall.
That's why I think, no, absolutely. And that's why I think it's the drum beat, right? Because it's how we fundamentally communicate, you know. So for us, from once we can, and it's like why I love dub, why I love reggae, it's because it's a drum. It's a drum. And I feel like it's a communication between us, you know, from our elders, our ancestors, etc. And Afrobeats as a result, I feel, you know, is so phenomenal. You know, even with like South African house that I was telling you about, Amapiano, I absolutely love it. And I feel like I've now, you know, ventured a lot more into it. But I think it's almost because my spirit resonates with it, you know, in terms of my elders and my ancestry. It's something that I feel is like in my core. But yeah, I think we're definitely eclectic in that sense, definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's kind of like, it's nice to see how all the use of, because when I was young growing up, African music wasn't really played. It wasn't played, not amongst the masses. It was played like my dad would have some fella, he'd have some of that sort he would play. And then you'd hear versions of African music. And now it's like we're all one again, and it's like the music is
beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and
absolutely beautiful. And I think it's definitely a reflection of the times, you know, in terms of this consciousness, in terms of us recognizing that we are all like, you know, my immediate parents might be Caribbean, but ultimately I'm an African. That's how I see it. But I think that has taken time, you know, but I think there is that recognition now that we are one. And I feel like as a result, you know, the creativity is flowing, there's more uniting, and there isn't that kind of standoffish, like, oh, well, you're from here and I'm from here. I feel ultimately, like for me personally, I resonate a lot more with Africa now than, you know, I do with the Caribbean, just because I feel like that is who, you know, that's where my ancestry is. That's what my DNA says. That's what I'm made of. So no, it's definitely a beautiful time in terms of next generation and how we see ourselves, you know. That's what I think it really comes down to. And I know you mentioned about getting involved with the shop in 1981, and then obviously the production in 2004 side of things. But what made you get involved in a shop in 1981? What was, how did you get involved?
It's funny because so many people lived in our house who's gone on to own shops. My dad inspired people to open shops, help people who's got shop, people like John at Dub Vendor and Chris Lane. They were coming there when I was in primary school to buy records. My dad encouraged them, helped them. Hawkeye, Roy Forbes, he's like a brother to us. He used to live with us.
Wow.
And he then left, and he had all his label. He had stuff doing with Big Youth, with Gussie Clark, and releasing stuff. And I used to go to his shop because he was more selling this kind of modern stuff. I weren't really into the Studio One. I weren't really too old. And then one Christmas, my mum said to me, "Why are you going to all kind? Your dad's got a shop." You know what I mean? And I thought, let me go to my dad's. And I went there, and he was like, he said, "Oh." I said, he said, "We," I said, I come to give you a hand." And he started laughing. I sat there with him and watched him doing it. I was about 14, and I watched him doing it, and I got into it. And then I started to go there on a Saturday when I weren't playing football for the school or anything, going, and I'd go up there and and then he'd leave me in there and go off, and then leave me in the lion's den. And then I enjoyed it, you know, as a young kid, serving all these big men. And I got knowledge from customers as well as being in the shop, because they'd ask me about songs I didn't know and what it is. But I mean, being the youngest, I had the stuff of now. He was doing all the dubs at John Hassel, people like Shaka, Sterograph, Chaba. They used to come to the house to him, you know, and him and a guy called Groucho. They used to be selling all them hit tunes like Kunta Kinte, Molding, Hey You Mr. Bossman, all them big tunes. And I was hearing them from young. And I weren't raving them days. So it was like, it got me to want to do it and got me to want to be in that sort of circle.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense, And so do you have a kind of song that impacted you and made you think, yeah, you know what, my dad started Peckings, but this is my moment now, like this is a song that made it for me. Like for me, it's Declaration of Rights, the Abyssinians, that inspired me to build CAYA. You know, I was at Carnival and it was playing and I just had like an epiphany. It was like, I'm going to build a sound. And then it was like, yeah, just like that. And, but also, like I said, also Kunta Kinte, every time I hear that, I feel like it's like a warrior spirit in me, that something just happens to my, the neurons or whatever it is, just stand up and I just feel like, it does something. Also Black Woman, obviously Judy Moa, and I just think, I've got a few, those are my reggae ones, but you know, there's also soul, there's also jazz, you know, so how about you? What songs?
I think like, as you call Kunta Kinte, because that was like a tune I was in school. And when I heard it for the first time, Duke had like, he wouldn't have one cut, he'd have like 8 versions of it. And Moulding, I Jaman Levy, Hey You Mr. Bossman, those are the tunes. But then from my dad's side, things like Real Rock, which is like a Vin Gordon instrument, I know you know it, but it's like the most covered rhythm in reggae. So things like that. Dennis Brown album, No Man's an Island. That's the first reggae album I really fell in love with. And then all the early Marley stuff, the Lee Perry stuff, African Herdsman, African kinky reggae. Those are the kind of stuff that I really loved. And then some of the stuff my mum liked this woman called Dakota Smith. She's like a jazz R&B singer. She'd play that, and then she'd play a Mahalia Jackson gospel,
yes,
and people like that. So you hear it, it's always around me. The early Sam Cooke, Five Blind Boys of Alabama. She'd play all these kind of things, and I'd hear songs. She'd sing them so often it just resonated in your head, even if it wasn't into it. So yeah, that's my really early recollection. My dad with jazz every Sunday. He played
and
jazz
that's it.
for
It was a Sunday. It's a
hours.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. No, and without music, what would you be doing? Do you think you would have obviously I know you as you said, you were into IT, but do you think you could exist without music, or it's just like
Never,
it is?
no way.
Yeah.
It is. It's my mood, as I said. It's my happiness. It's my sadness. It's my vibe. It's everything I love about music. Yeah.
Wow.
I think we all do. Yourself too.
Yeah, no. For me, music is my therapy. It's my love. It's my peace. It's my, it's a universal language, like I know talking reggae to certain people that I would never, ever brush shoulders with in any other kind of environment. So for me, it's definitely, it's part of who I am, but it's amazing because then you have other people who, they're not at all steered towards music and that creative side. So when you do find people who resonate with music in that way, it's just like you get it. It's like a language within a language. Like I couldn't be without music. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I listen to it all day, all night. It's more so that what it does for me when I am listening. Like I feel without music, my teenage years were very difficult, and had it not been for music, I struggled a lot. So for me, it's my coping mechanism. There's so much to it. So I get it when you say that it's food to the soul, and you couldn't exist without it. I so understand. The other questions that I wanted to ask was your favorite new releases. Who is there right now, and what can we expect from Peckings once it's opened back up on the 12th of April?
Good news. Finally. Well, basically, the kind of artists I'm listening to now, I like a lot of the young artists coming through Jamaica, like that new roots movement. I like, obviously, Chronix, Protege, Jazzy Lisa, Janine. I love Lila Ike in my buzz at the moment. She's the best thing coming out of Jamaica to me. I really, really love her music. I love her style. And from a Peckings point of view, we have quite a few things. We have some Treasure Isle projects to be done, reissuing some stuff. We have a Tenor Star album, a Peter Prince album, another project with Maccabee. We've got stuff with Gappy Ranson release. We've got Aisha Loren, Empress Dawn, Alicia Scott, Randy Valentine. We've got a lot, and some instrumentals with Patrick Matic, some project with Matthew and Fluxy. So we've got some stuff coming in.
Massive. And another question that I was going to ask was, how did the shop end up being in W12 ASCII Road? Why was that the location?
Okay, basically, my mum came here in '58 and she was in Harlesden. Then my dad came in 1960. They got a place around Shepherd Bush Green, Tadmore Street. Because although my dad was in the Grove, he didn't really want to live in the Grove. The Grove was too buzzing. And he didn't want to live amongst that. He didn't mind going in and coming away. So Shepherd Bush is quite near. So it was he ended up there, and then he bought a house in Hammersmith, just off the Gold Oak Road. And as I said to you, he was too busy with people coming through to buy records. And then my mum said, no, you've got to find a shop. And he did on Askew Road 142 in 1974, and the rest is history. We've never left the road, although I moved it up to 81. Askew Road is like the spiritual home for Peckings, you know.
Yeah, but I think I think that's how people actually navigate Askew Road is by the shop. So yeah. It's just history, and it's just beautiful for me to be able to visit, and it's really, it's a part of history. You know, that's what you call like a listed building in my eyes. That's a listed building. It's a listed building. I think. Yeah, so you've mentioned about the new releases. Obviously, you're opening back up on April the 12th. And obviously your releases are going to be, you said that you had some unreleased that you were going to be selling.
Reissuing,
Reissuing, that's it,
Yeah, basically, the only thing holding us up is the pressing plants, because vinyl all of a sudden has become hip again. And the majors are pressing bigger volumes than they were doing. So what's happening, the independent people who kind of kept the whole thing going with these pressing plants, they've pushed us to the side because we don't press the volumes they press. So obviously it takes a little bit longer to get the stuff. But yeah, we got a few things coming out and some new dub albums, which is right up your street.
Fantastic. That's what I'm coming on April the 12th. I'm going to be first in line. So yeah, that's my first stop. Absolutely. And on that note, in terms of digital and vinyl, what do you think about it's the question that I always get asked. And as I've said, you know, now that I'm into, you know, South African house, I'm a piano. When I play it, it's a lot more DJ controller and what have you. When I'm playing the sound, it's more so predominantly vinyl. I do play CDs as well, but it's predominantly vinyl. But what do you think about the quality of digital now, and not even verse vinyl? But what's your take on it, Chris?
I think with certain music, digital, it sounds good. Some music, like I suppose with the South African music playing, it would sound better on vinyl because the amount of the acoustics, the music that's involved. Because with that music, it's everything like reggae. Reggae sounds so much better on vinyl. It's warmer, it's fat, how it was recorded. I think when you're doing stuff like the drill, the hip hop now, the modern hip hop, not the old school hip hop. I think with a lot of modern music, it sounds good digital. But when you put them on vinyl, it even sounds better, because I've got some of the Chronic stuff on vinyl and it sounds much better than it does digitally. The Lila IK, where I'm coming from on vinyl, it sounds fat and warm and heavier. You're a sound system owner, so you know when you play it on the sound, it drops more. I think with the digital stuff, it's too much high end. But I get youngsters, the youngsters they're not into owning music. They're into just playing it for the time.
That's interesting.
They just play it on their phone, they play it on their iPad, they play it on their lap. They don't really care about owning it.
I think you're right, definitely, because it's more so not a minimalist society, but things are becoming a lot smaller, they're becoming a lot more accessible. And so I think it's those who are real, not connoisseurs, but buffs who, like for me, I like to have vinyl, you know, as well as having digital, I like to have vinyl. So yeah, I hear you on that. But the younger, the generations that are now are definitely a lot more, you know, streamlined. I need something that's going to play on my phone, and I need to be able to move with it. So yeah, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what they're missing is that when you own vinyl, 20 years down the road, they can sell it and make a lot of money out of it. Because you see how records are selling now. I know people who they wouldn't buy clothes, they wouldn't hardly eat food, and their house is full of records now. But when to sell it all, it's priceless now. I mean, obviously, if young Lola was to sell his dad's collection, just the heritage name of it, it'd be worth. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly,
just
I tell
being
you,
Shaka's collection.
Honestly, when it comes to vinyl, like vinyl from that era, it's coming like what cryptocurrency is now.
Yeah.
Vinyl from that time is like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency now, because it's like if you bought it, yeah, it was expensive at the time. But if you've got music now, obviously from back then, that's like cryptocurrency. Like it's like when people bought into Bitcoin in 2009, and other people are like, I'm not doing that for this kind of thing that's not going to be around. And now it's like, Lord,
crazy,
it's crazy. But yes. Obviously, if you're not already following Peckings, please do on Instagram. They're opening back on April the 12th. You heard yourself that they've got a whole heap of stuff for you to get your hands on. So yeah, please do visit, please do support. And any final words from you, Chris?
Well, I'd like to thank all the people like yourself who've been supporting Peckings for many, many years. I love what you're doing. Keep doing your stuff. And I want to encourage all the young artists, musicians out there to keep doing it, because we need an industry here, and we have one. And I think it's going to be long-term better for them, because now we've had like a reset button on the planet.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, thank you so much. This is Music Is. This is part 8. Next week we are going to be back with a next guest in the creative industry. I'm not going to say who. You've got to follow my page to find out. But thank you. Big up Chris, big up Peckings, and long live Peckings.
Thank you.
You take care. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.